President Trump addressing the issue of affordability in last night's State of the Union. Join us now, Congressman Brad Schneider, Democrat of Illinois. He is the chair of the new Democrat coalition, and it's good to see you, Congressman.
Good
Thanks
morning.
for joining us.
Good to see you.
Let's say that, as an alternative to what you heard last night, if the Democrats were to retake the House, and maybe that happens at this point, if you believe the sentiment maybe that we're seeing in the country, what's the best way to accomplish affordability or helping with affordability? Is there more Trump could be doing, and how would Democrats handle it?
Of course, there's more that the president can do, and I wish my Republican colleagues in the House would join us as well. We need to focus on the things that are making life hard for American families. It's the cost of groceries, the cost of housing, health care, that extension of the premium tax subsidies, or premium subsidies through the tax credit. Millions of families are seeing their insurance increase by $1,000, $1,500 a month. That's $18,000 pre-tax. And it's a tough burden on these families. So we should focus on the things that folks are looking at every single month as they try to pay their bills, and also at the same time help them save, take a vacation, even secure their retirement.
We were trying to get somewhere on that, Republicans and Democrats, in terms of a year extension for it based on something. How did that break down? Is there anything happening right now, or those subsidies are never going to be extended? I mean, there are some people that argue that they shouldn't have been since they were pandemic era, and that we need a much bigger overall fix for some of the things in the Affordable Care Act. But where does that stand right now? I thought we were going to go look at that again.
We did, and we passed it in the House. And let's define what the subsidies are. Basically, it's saying that no one in this country should pay more than 8.5% of their income in health insurance premiums. And if you get your insurance through your employer, the employer takes a tax deduction, the government's subsidizing that. If you get your insurance through Medicare or Medicaid, the government's subsidizing that. It's the people in the individual market, whether it's small businesses or people buying their insurance on their own, that in some cases are paying 15, 20, 25% of their income just for health insurance. And many people saying, well, I just can't afford that. And they go without health insurance, which puts a burden on the whole system. At the same time, we can work to try to reduce the cost of health care, work on reducing the cost of medicines, working on reducing the cost of primary care, making sure more people have primary care so they're not relying on emergency services for basic needs. That's something that Democrats and Republicans should work together on. But you go back 15 years already, all the Republicans have done is criticize the Affordable Care Act and not come up with any solutions on their own. Let's work together.
Congressman, there's finger pointing on both sides on where the divisiveness. See, there's even a divide on how to say it. Divisive. I think
tomato. It's one of those things. Yeah.
There were a couple of times last night where it just seemed to be uncomfortable or cringeworthy, where Democrats were stuck to their seats. I don't know whether you stood. I'm thinking one time where that horrific incident where the Ukrainian woman was stabbed in the neck, and her mother was there, and the Democrats were glued to their, wouldn't even stand for that. Is that a good look? Does that get Democratic votes in the next election, or do people go, just shake their head and go, this is beyond normal?
Yeah, before the cringe moments, let's talk about the positives where the chamber was united. There were two key moments that stood out to me when the hockey team came out. And we were celebrating not just the men's hockey team, but all the Olympians who represented our country and did it in an extraordinary way. And congratulations to all our Olympians. That was at the very beginning. At the very end, when the president gave the Medal of Honor to two war heroes, people who put their lives on their line, sacrificed for our nation, and set the example which more of us should follow, is love of country, commitment to duty, right, and honoring each other. And the chamber was united. And I think most of my colleagues, I know I certainly did, when the president acknowledged the people in the galleries who were folks that are an example to the entire country, we stood up. And the one you mentioned, the murder in Georgia was a horrific murder. It was terrible. The tragedy is the president tries to say that violent crime only is committed by immigrants. The fact of the matter is that immigrants are less likely to commit violent crime in this country than the general population. Immigrants are more likely to start a business, to work in jobs that other people don't want to take on, some of the harder, backbreaking jobs, and work to make our country stronger, our communities better. And rather than dividing the country, I wish the president had spent more time trying to unite the country.
But there has been a change, and you've seen the videos of President Clinton or President Obama. You've seen them talk about illegal immigration in the past and open borders. And something changed. I guess it changed during the Biden administration. If you can't stand up for when the president says, you know, will you stand up for U.S. citizens versus illegal immigrants? And just to make a point, I don't know if any Democrats really stood for that. And that's almost like a trap that the president set up to, I don't know, pigeonhole all Democrats as being for totally open borders.
Yeah, I think that was one of the sadder moments in the president's speech, is when he went out of his way to create that divide, to set up as you said, a trap, and basically tell Democrats, if you don't agree with me, you're un-American. The fact of the matter is, what makes this country so strong is the diversity.
It's just to get people actually on the record for, okay, so yes, I do, you know, at least to pigeonhole.
I don't accept the premise. I've been here. This is my 6th term since I got here. We've been working on trying to address immigration, comprehensive immigration reform with secure borders. I've worked with Republican colleagues. We introduced legislation in 2013. John Boehner prevented it from coming to the floor. We worked on Dreamer legislation in 2017 after the president ended the Dreamer program, the DACA program. Then Paul Ryan blocked it. We need bipartisan work together to address the big problems, from immigration to healthcare to energy policy to addressing AI. The only way we'll solve problems with solutions that stand the test of time is if Democrats and Republicans work together across the aisle and represent the entire country.